It's an exciting time. It's fun to hear these guys speak. I haven't been on the dais with them very much this year. For one reason or another, our paths don't cross as much, but it's an exciting time. And I think you look in this building tonight, you look at what's going on with baseball. I'm in the parking lot today having a talk with our women's soccer coach about a recruit that she had in last week that we met with and strategizing about what's the next step. Those things are fun. It's fun. I mean, it really is. And I think Kevin and everybody else is exactly right. The more that you partake in it, the funner it's going to be for everybody. Because the players, there really is, you see this growing every year, and I really see it in Kurt's program because we're in the same building. What's changing constantly is what the players are expecting of themselves. I don't think there's any question it's going on in football, and the new guys aren't even all here yet. And as we all know, if we followed even remotely as close to we follow the basketball recruiting, we know that this football class has got some real opportunities to bring tremendous things to Indiana. But I look at it in Kurt's program. A year ago, you never saw their players in the building. This time of year now, you never saw them with the sweat-stained shirts. You never saw it. Now it might be early in the morning. It might be late at night. They have the gym. We have a gym. You hear the ball bouncing. The music's a little different that they're listening to over there than some of our guys are, especially when Jeremy Hollowell and Hunter Perry are in charge of the music. So we've got to mature that up a little bit. But it's different. And it's what we knew, and it's what Kevin knew coming in from Oklahoma. It's certainly how Todd's been raised in coaching. It's what Kurt knew at Bowling Green. It's what Tracy Smith knew when he came back and rebuilt this thing again at Indiana. When you have the players that are running the program's ownership level. Now the coaches run the program, okay? But the ownership level, all coaches are invested. All coaches own. They own it. I mean, they live it. 24/7, they live it. When the players are living it that way, when the players are invested that way, now the ownership is being run by the players. And that's where it has to be. Because 5 years ago, soon to be 6, we knew what it was like to not have it be that way. Kevin's talking about 30 walk-ons. I thought he was talking about our 2008 team with all the walk-ons that we had. I mean, it's just a different day, and in so many areas. But it's an exciting day when you start to think about now the cultures are being laid down here where people are going to continue to work, and now there's some leadership in the programs where the players say, this is how it's going to be. This is what's expected of you when you walk in. That's what we're hoping for right now. We're waiting to see right now of all the things that have done, those 56 wins, and the fact that over the last 2 years, when you take the BCS programs, we've led the country over 2 years in field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throws attempted, and free throws made. And I see those numbers, and they're up in our office, and I think about them, and we talk about them in recruiting. And then it really hits home when you get on the phone with the general managers or the head coaches of these NBA teams. And they want to dive into the nitty-gritty of guys like Cody and guys like Victor and even Christian and Jordan to an extent, but they want to dive into the body language, and they want to dive into the character, and they want to dive into the work ethic, and they want to dive into how they treated their teammates, all right, how they treated the support staff. They want to dive into that. They come in for 1 or 2 days. They'll send their staffs in, and they'll dive into everything. And like I tell the players during the season, if you're good enough and you're on that line of being a guy that's going to be in that draft, the NBA is already sending in private investigators. The teams are already sending in people to check on you. There will be nothing hidden when draft day comes. And when these people start diving into all these questions, and I said, no, his body language is great. No, he was great with his teammates. No, I can name probably 2 bad practices that he had in 2 years. I start to hear that, then I start to get real nervous because we lost some really, really good players. Really good players. We lost 70% of our scoring. We lost 67% of our minutes. We've lost 77% of our three-pointers and 68% of our rebounds. And when I start to think about what this group has done over the last couple of years and what they did this year and the whole journey that we were on to get the program back and to win the Big Ten and to have the climatic and dramatic ways that we did it, and then to know what they've done off the court, know what they're doing academically, and then you start to really get an opportunity that the selling of these guys for the next level is so easy because you realize for the last couple of years they've been selling themselves. in the world of United general manager told me tonight on the ride here, he said of all the players that they interviewed at the pre-draft camp in Chicago, Cody and Victor were the best. They were the best in the way that they handled it, the way they presented themselves, the way they articulated what was important to them, and the way they came in with eye contact and body language. Now, I'll go home and tell our guys that, in the sense of that stuff matters. It matters when you can talk about Cody Zeller in 2 years having a 3.6 GPA, leaving 35 credits short in the Kelley School of Business. It matters when you can talk about Victor Oladipo after graduating on his 21st birthday in 6 semesters with a higher GPA of a 3.2 than he had in high school. All right, and doing it the way that he did with all the things that were going on in his life. It matters when you can talk about Christian Watford in the ride. He didn't just make a jump in his ability to shoot threes, he made a jump in his GPA. It's funny how those things work out. It's amazing when you can talk about Jordan Hulls and Derek Elston, that they will have their masters this year, and they just finished their 4 years of eligibility. And that's the stuff that we're trying to lay out there for these guys that are there now. Because every time I start thinking about what we lost, and every time it hits me that these guys are going into the lottery and it's a new day, it hits me that there's a chance for unbelievable growth in this program. Great growth. We're going to have a lot of youth. We're going to have 6 new freshmen. We're going to have another player in Evan Gordon that'll give us 7 brand new guys. Not to mention a couple of walk-ons that'll be new inside of the program. But when you're starting to be able to recruit and be able to go into homes not only in the state of Indiana, which is always going to be the most important place, because at the beginning of the day it started with an inside-out theory. Start at home and move from there. But then go into other parts of the nation, because now Indiana basketball is back at a level where the young kids are growing up on it again. The high school kids are growing up on it again. It's not just a program that had all this great tradition and these 70 some odd guys that have been drafted and all these different players and great teams and Final Four teams and champions and Big Ten champions. Now it's something they can look at and identify with. And they can identify with the academics, especially their parents. They can identify with the development, especially their coaches. They can identify with the prestige that's there to be at Indiana, especially their counselors and their teachers and all those people that know that Indiana's a world-class university and know what it stands for, know what it means to get into the Kelley School of Business, or know what it means to graduate from a school like Indiana. And then all the other things that go into it. When those young men come on the campus and they get a chance to be around those players, then they know it's for real. And that's where we're at. We're going to have a lot of young guys that bought in to the fact that Indiana was coming back. All right, it came back, and now they've got a chance to keep it back. And that's where we sit. And it's an exciting time for us because we're starting our workouts. We started some workouts last week. We had a full one yesterday morning. They're lifting weights at 7:30 in the morning. We go with 40-minute workouts right now. Yesterday we had Hunter Perea, Jeremy Hollowell, Yogi Farrell, and Noah Vonleh. I can't wait for tomorrow morning because there's an excitement level. And they were gone because we changed a little bit how we did things in the month of May. We let them leave once school was up because things have gotten so much longer. We can now work out with our players 2 hours a week in basketball in the summertime. And you're always going to be very conscious of having the season be too long and the year too long because they are working at such a pace. But now when we can go in there and work on the skill level, what I like best about our team right now is that we've got our time with them, and yet they're coming back later in the day. And that's the culture that's been laid. We didn't walk into that culture. That's the culture that Jordan Hulls, Victor Oladipo, Will Sheehy, guys like that put into this program. That it's a 365-day-a-year program. You're going to be expected to do it right 365 days a year by your teammates, not just your coaches. Not just your coaches. And that's the stages that we're in right now. All the different coaches that speak tonight, there are different stages with their programs. But the one stage, the common denominator, the umbrella on top of it, is that the cultures are there now for people to be successful. Because the players, again, they're starting to make those strides. Where we sit right now, we've got to get great leadership from a lot of young guys. Will Sheehy is a senior that is led by example. He's led by work ethic. He's led with energy. He's led with combativeness. And now he's got to lead by dragging his teammates with him. He's got to lead by making sure that he now understands. It's not about that there's one leader, there's two leaders, there's collective leadership on our team. I'm not a big captain guy, never have been. Okay, 1 year I picked captains at Marquette in 2002, and 2 weeks later one of them transferred. So I'm not big on that, okay? But leadership is another story. And there's got to be great collective leadership. Well, we'll see. He's got to bring that for us, because I think we'll be having the same conversations with the general managers in a year about Will. He's got that kind of athleticism and that kind of talent. The biggest areas he's got to improve in: decision-making on the court, okay? He's got to get to the point where he trusts that three-point shot the way that we see it in practice, and he's got to be able to make his teammates better. If he can do those things, he's going to have a fantastic year. When it comes to the other young guys, we skip right down to some of the sophomores. Yogi Ferrell, whenever you give time off, you're always, it's like parenting, okay? You give your kids the keys, or you tell them, be back by X amount of time, or they're going over for an overnight trip, or going to visit somebody somewhere. You're always worried. Well, I don't worry as much about our guys, okay, off the court going away. I worry about them getting distracted and not living in the gym, and so they're not being on the court the way that they need to be. Yogi Ferrell didn't do that. He went and got on the court. I feel very, very good about what he's done while he's been home. He has got a desire. He's got a mindset of improvement. He's got to become, the biggest areas for him to improve for us, he's got to become an absolute pit bull when it comes to demanding of his teammates. His freshman year is over. There's no more deferring and waiting for Victor to say it, or waiting for Jordan to say it, or waiting for Cody to say it, or waiting for Christian to do it. He's got to say it. He's got to be that kind of guy for us. He's got to become a legitimate knockdown three-point shooter behind the line of the screen in the pick and roll, off the catch and shoot, off the dribble, all those areas. So that increases his speed and getting to the basket even that much more. And he's got to become an even better finisher at the basket, especially with his left hand. But the biggest strength he has is his ability to make others better. And if he does that, he'll be knocking on the door as one of the best point guards in the country this year. I have no doubt about it. Jeremy Hollowell and Hunter Perea are two guys that have tremendous athleticism, length. They got all the physical parts that you would look. Now they have the desire to be better. They have the work ethic. And I think when you have that, now you start to see the improvement. What those two have got to become are two of the most competitive players on our team day in and day out. They've got to try to win every sprint, which they don't yet. They've got to try to win every pickup game, which they haven't yet. We don't have enough for pickup games yet, but we will soon. They've got to try to win every drill. They've got to hate losing more than they like to win, because most players are like most people. They like to win. They like the feeling of winning. But you don't have true greatness in you until you absolutely despise and will not tolerate losing. And that's one of the things that happened to our team over the last 2 years. That's why we had the road record that we had, the Big Ten record that we had, the 56 wins. The talent got better, but they hated to lose. They hated to lose. And if they ever needed a reminder, there was always an opportunity for one of us as coaches to pull that out, or for Janae Jackson to pull that out in the weight room. And that's why the culture got so much stronger. That we've got to get. We've got to have what the one thing we didn't have last year is we were never as deep as I thought we would be. We had some guys really, really separate from the pack in a positive way. And we had some guys that let them. And when we talk about 365-day-a-year players, if you ever hear me say that, or you read it, or we're recruiting year-round winners, that's not what you do when everybody else is doing it. We all get 20 hours a week during the season. We all get 8 hours a week in the off season in basketball. That has nothing to do with it. It's your ability to take what you do there and transfer that learning to what you want to do to get better, but more importantly, to transfer that work ethic and hunger to improve. Give you an example. All right, there were probably 2 days in the 3 years that Victor Oladipo was at Indiana that we did not see him in Cook Hall on an off day. One was because I told him not to. One was because I know he didn't feel good. But one was because I said, I don't want you coming in the next day. Victor Oladipo's first day on campus 3 years ago now in June, he was in Cook Hall just like Will Sheehy was. On the Monday, he left to go back to D.C. to start training for the draft. Back in D.C., he was in the gym. He was in Cook Hall till about 3:30, 3:45, go home, packs his stuff, gets a 7:30 flight. Or I shouldn't say pack his stuff, get his bags and leave. That's the kind of mindset. Well, during the season, practice ends, we have weights, we have films. He's back out in the gym. He's not just out there shooting free throws. He's in a full-fledged workout with one of our managers or graduate managers. He's just out there shooting jump shots. He goes back. We had a set of cones that were just set aside for Victor every day. Okay, anywhere from 8 to 12 of those yellow caution cones. And he'd just pull them out and he'd work on his ball handling. That's how you go from being 145 in the country to being one of the first people picked in the draft. He and Cody both work out for Phoenix tomorrow. They have the 5th pick in the draft. He was in Orlando last week. They have the 2nd pick in the draft. He's going to Cleveland on the 16th. They have the 1st pick in the draft. Okay, it's why it works. It's why it works. That's what's got to happen in the program now. We will be young. We will be inexperienced. We won't totally understand. But if we want to be competitive and we want to keep building on that culture, we'll get that hunger. And if that hunger is like that with those young guys, okay? Peter Jerkin needs to be the same way. He just can't stay healthy yet. But it is improving. Austin Etherington is the one that's finally starting to get that. And he missed the year, but right now, when I talk to Tim and when I talk to Janae, he's further ahead in the same injuries that Maurice Creek had, in the sense of recovery time, in the sense of attacking it, in the sense of being able to do more, in the sense of even trying to be in the gym more. So that's all we can base it on. Okay, well, how do you come back from this injury that he had? Because he had a very devastating injury. He's the strongest guy on our team right now. He's stronger. And when we did our testing at the end of the year, Austin was stronger than Cody, was stronger than Victor, and they were the 2 strongest guys during the year. Austin has surpassed them when it comes to the upper body strength, when it comes to the bench press, things of that nature. That's a good thing, because that's the kind of leadership that he's going to have to bring. I don't know what his role is going to be, but he's got to go find a role. And he's got to be competitive enough to go in there and demand it. And then we start getting into the young guys, and we start talking about Noah Vonleh, who's there. What I like about Noah right now, okay, most guys, when they're really, really tired and they want to go get a drink of water and you give them a break every 8 minutes or every 10 minutes or something like that, whatever we're doing in our workout, he not only sprints the court, he sprints to the Gatorade cooler. Now I want to see if we can keep that up. Okay, if we can keep that up, we got a special guy right there. He doesn't want to take any time away from it. And I like that. That's an attitude. He's 6'9 3/4 in his stocking feet. He's got a 7'5 wingspan. He's got a max vertical jump of a 38. Okay, this guy's an athlete. He's an athlete. I don't know how long we'll have him, but I know he's one of these kids that he's going to come in. Those bags will be unpacked. He wants to be in Indiana because he knows he's going to get better. He knows he's going to get a great education, and he knows he's going to be in an environment that's going to push him and demand of him. And what I'm seeing is he's going to be really easy to coach, because when you demand that of yourself the way this young guy does it at his age, I mean, he's a year younger. He should be getting ready to be a high school senior. That gives us a chance. Now, how good will he be right off the bat? I don't know. He's got to learn college basketball. But I tell you what now, the work ethic and the athleticism and the demeanor, that's a big jump start. That's a big jump start, okay? And I don't mean a head start, I mean a jump start, because in this business, you got to be able to jump ahead of the competition like Victor did, like Will Sheehy's doing, like Cody did. You got to be able to do those type of things. Troy Williams is a pogo stick. He just spent the last 2 weeks working out in Houston after his graduation. What I like about a couple of our guys, Troy Williams, who went to Oak Hill, and Stanford Robinson, who left DC to go to Findlay Prep. Those are big deals now to kids. And it's not just a big deal. Stanford already made a commitment to Indiana. He already had a big-time scholarship. I don't think he left to go get more recognition. I think he left, and he was in as good a league as there is in the country when it comes to a high school league that they have in DC when you're playing against DeMatha and Gonzaga and all these people in that league. But he went to go and play this national schedule. Troy Williams went to play a national schedule. Those guys are serious about what they want to do in college. Troy Williams has got to get to be a consistent outside shooter. He's got to get to be a decision maker, and we're going to have to put weight on him. Because if he puts that weight with his ability to get to the basket, dunk, explode, he's going to be really, really hard to deal with. But the decision making and the legitimate consistency of shooting is going to be really important. Stanford Robinson has got to be able to play multiple guard spots for us. He's got to be able to defend multiple positions. He's got to bring a toughness. He's got to become a consistent three-point shooter. He's got to be able to finish in the lane, all right, with recognition of a pull-up jump shot or getting all the way to the basket, and he's got to show leadership from the position, because he's going to play some point guard for us. Luke Fisher was in the other day. He's still in school. He doesn't graduate till this weekend. What I like about Luke is he was one of those guys that never, ever complained about what he didn't have, because he didn't have a lot of recognition and ranking. And he really wasn't even recruited by the state school, okay? But all this guy did in the last 3 years is go 84-2 in high school, 56-0 his last 2 years, win back-to-back state championships, win Mr. Basketball, and finally, somebody started ranking him high enough, ESPN ranked him in the top 30. We'll show Luke Fisher as much Cody Zeller defense as we will show him Cody Zeller offense, in the sense of helping him come in. Because if he can help us with the defense and the rebounding and being able to be a legitimate scoring threat on that post and knock down 15 to 17 footers, he'll be able to help us. The two guys, last but not least, were the first two commitments, and this is how I want to close it, because this is where we're at with this program. When we started this thing out 5 years ago, it wasn't just about recruiting the class, okay? It was about recruiting classes. It was about getting it back up. It was about getting it to a point where young kids, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th graders would look at Indiana and say, that's where I want to be. Not just the ones that were looking at it from in-state, okay? And even that we were losing a little bit of. And it's really easy to get away from that because so many years have passed. We'll never get away from that. We never, ever, whatever we took for granted when we walk into Indiana, that all went away in 3 months. It all went away. So we will never, ever take that for granted. Well, as we were building this back up, guys like Devin Davis and guys like Colin Hartman, they were sponges. They wanted to be a part of it. They committed to us when we were losing 20-plus games. They were looking at it not just because it was a state school, but they were coming down and they were feeling it. They were feeling the energy of the crowd. They were feeling the energy of a Hoosier hysteria. They were feeling the energy of that passion. They could feel that hurt that Kevin's talking about when people would walk out of the stands. It's a different vibe, okay? And they could feel that, and they wanted to be a part of that. And I'm excited about that because recruiting in the state of Indiana has and will always be the lifeline and the lifeblood of the program. All right, and I think you're seeing that now. Kevin, there's players in this state. He's keeping the best at home when you look at what he did in this city alone. He got some of the best players in the country, okay, that were sitting in the city of Indianapolis to come and stay home. Kurt's going to do the same thing. Todd Yeagley, there's no question that Coach Yeagley before and Todd and everybody in between, they can go anywhere they want to recruit. But if a guy is good enough in the state of Indiana, they're going to come. Look at Tracy Smith. He can go around the country. He's still getting Indiana guys. And that's why you need to keep coming. That's why you need to keep being excited about the other sports. That's why you need to be on campus, like Kevin says, and don't just be at the tailgate. Be inside of it. Because all those kids, when Colin Hartman and Devin Davis were 9th graders, and I know Evan Gordon, who I haven't talked a lot about tonight, he's just moving down there this week. He grew up on it watching his brother, okay, and Eric play there and seeing that. And this young guy, when he wanted to leave and come home, he wanted to get into athletic administration because he wants to be a coach someday. And we have a graduate program. There's so many opportunities in Indiana. He knew having that Indiana name behind him, all right, was going to end up being, he sold us on that as much as we sold him. You know what I mean? That's the power that this program, okay, that this athletic department, that this university has. It has a power, and you're the reason. You're the reason, because you come, you get excited, you stay with it, you wear your gear, you live it with us, you die it with us, and you come back the next day. And that's why it's going to continue to work. And that's why it's so exciting to coach these guys. Because when they trot out there, we know what it feels like for them to be able to go out, all right, into Assembly Hall and play in front of all of you. Darius Latham and Antonio Allen and Kenny and all those guys that are coming in as freshmen now, they got a chance to see that on our end, and they got a chance to see that at the football games. Now it is all of our jobs to make sure that we raise the roof on every level of a sporting event at Indiana, because I'm telling you now, the kids are working. They're stealing that ownership away from the coaches. And that's hard because coaches are control freaks. They're micromanagers. They don't want to give up anything. But boy, a coach will gladly turn over that ownership of the program to the player that's willing to grab it from them. And that's why, as Fred always talks about the golden age, that's the golden age. The golden age isn't just the beautiful facilities which we have, which are turning into be second to none. It's not just the great uniforms and the tradition of the programs. It's the players. It's the young people having great GPAs. We had a 3.04 again this semester. Everybody graduating, if they're not graduating early. If you're graduating on time, you're behind in our program right now. That's where it's going. Be excited about it. You got a group of people led by Fred and led by President McRobbie on the administrative side that they wake up every morning. Fred is phenomenal in the sense that when you work with him, you work with him. You don't work with him, but at the end of the day, you work for him. You work with him. And he lives and dies what's going on with it. And he's always trying to push that envelope to make it that much better. And that's unique to work for. I've worked for that one other time. I hadn't worked for that a lot of other times. But I worked for that one other time, so I got a real view of what it's like to work with somebody. All right? And that's what it's like right now, working and being a part of this group. When you come to our games, when you come to these facilities, when you come to the open practices, when you get on that campus, we're all together. We're living proof. You look at what happened in this program over the first 3 years, especially the first 3 months, and you look at what's happened over the last 2 years, and you can take a look in the mirror and know that you all, and your friends and family and the people throughout this state, all of you had a hand in making it be what it is today and what it's going to continue to be. And I just hope that we'll continue to do it because you are so much appreciated. Everything that you do with us, with the Alumni Association, with the Varsity Club, you are so much appreciated. And all you've got to do to know it is 2 things. Look in the mirror and then get on that campus and watch these people take ownership of the sports programs. Thank you.